Hi, everyone. Ankita Vashishtha is an investor and founder of the first women entrepreneurship VC fund, Saha Fund. Her investments include Fraternity, which was acquired by CureFit, My Ally, acquired by Phenom People, and Love Local, who recently raised the largest round ever raised by a solo woman tech founder in India. So she has spotted some really successful startups before they were successful. She's a crusader for women founders in the startup ecosystem and was recently on Business Insider's top 100 people transforming business. In our conversation, which is my personal favorite, we are talking about her perspective on women's well-being. Mental well-being and work-life balance from a working woman's perspective. Why is it so important for her, and what has been her personal journey of learning and evolution on how to say no? We both look forward to a world where there is a shared understanding of this and activate conversations which are freeing for people to own their own well-being needs. Join us. Authentic, unpolished conversation with Ankita Vashishtha on I Feel Fun. So welcome, Ankita. Welcome to the podcast. And this is where we have some of these conversations we don't get to have in a regular team meeting or a Saturday night party. As we call it, I Feel Fine. And really looking forward to talk to you about various aspects of holistic well-being as it relates to you. Also, given your role in the startup ecosystem as a woman, as somebody who's had many career shifts, as a mom, the idea is to help understand nuances of well-being to different kind of people at different stages in life. Yeah. So let me start with a very broad question that when I say the term mental well-being or work-life balance, depending on your choice, these all themes are similar. But when I say things like mental well-being, work-life balance, or thrive, what does it mean for you as an individual?
No, I think, thank you so much for, having me on this podcast. But I think it's so important to talk about mental well-being. And the whole work-life balance topic. I think this has been highlighted so much more during COVID, when we didn't know where our boundaries were, we didn't know what was happening, everything was blurred, right? So I think for me, mental well-being is really important. I think especially in the context of women, I feel we wear so many hats on the personal and professional sides. And it's so hard to sometimes kind of find time for yourself, right? Just giving my example, and I really feel, because I speak to some of my friends and people around me, and I think it's the same for everyone. We are being a mom, we're showing up at the workplace, we're being a wife, we're being a daughter, we're always taking care of someone else. But I think it's so important to take care of yourself, right? Even if it's just taking 30 minutes out to do yoga or meditate or write a book, write a journal or read a book, etc. right? So I think mental well-being and work-life balance is being happy, but being basically trying to take some time out for yourself. I think that's so important. I think because we're always so caught up in doing so much more, and so much more for everybody else, and we don't realize boundaries. And I think it's really important to create boundaries, have some, the same way we have this discipline at work. I feel it's so important to try to bring that discipline into personal engagements and activities as well, which is something, I guess, coming from a Indian context, is not a very acceptable or normal way of thinking, right? The minute you start thinking about yourself, people think, oh, you're selfish, or oh, this woman is very work focus minded, she doesn't care about her family, right? you will hear those comments or those kind of perceptions from people coming out. But I think, and what I like now is, as you said earlier, is the fact that people are talking about this now. People are recognizing this, right? It's like, I remember reading some article just last week, I think it was a Forbes article or something, where it said that women before COVID because they take care of, the home and the child and elders and all this thing, the whole unpaid kind of burden which comes on women. It's like them doing 2.5 jobs. But since COVID has hit, it's the equivalent of doing almost, I think, 5 to 6 jobs.
Yeah.
That's how much it is, right? So I think that thing has really come out for me. And I think it's just so important to basically have boundaries and take time out for yourself.
And with no pay.
Yeah, exactly. So that, which is why it's called the unpaid,
Yeah.
care burden.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was talking about that comment earlier in our conversation that, I just wrote a comment in terms of, parenting is not a job. It's harder than a job. It's like being a founder and CEO of a startup.
Yeah.
And if somebody had made that comment on that, saying, and they should be paid startup CEO salaries. And I was like, that's an idea, because that's how valuable the job of parenting is. But somehow we've not had a collective consciousness about it, the kind of work.
Yeah. I think
So,
it's because so many roles that people do are taken for granted. Right. And I think
the roles, right? You touched upon the boundaries and the roles and the caregiving. And sorry, I think you were saying something, but I just wanted to build and, ask you this, that where do you think this comes from in our culture? This whole thing of self-care is selfish.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something which has been there for generations, right? Because I think India has been a country of where so much importance is given to society, right? And what society thinks of you. We're a country where people have lived in joint families, right? Now, of course, what we see today is a huge change and shift where people are moving out and people do live in nuclear families and people are working, both husband and wife are working, right? I think that's what has changed, that the woman is working.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, I don't think, one generation, 2 generations before, women were not working, right? So they were by default the home, caretaker, right? So she had to take care of everything else. And unfortunately, if you don't bring in money, whatever you do is taken for granted or as a duty or as an obligation, right? So all of those unfortunate, previous norms have those biases, those society perceptions have stayed on, right? But I think this generation and our generation is, very slowly but very fast, breaking it, right? And of course, and to be honest, the generation gap is just closing, right? Like, I have siblings who are 10-12 years younger than me, by the way, so I have a huge age gap. But it's a completely different generation from even me. Maybe because I'm the eldest in the family, I still feel like I have a lot of responsibilities, but I can see my own siblings who are maybe just 10 years younger than me have a very different perception of the world, right? They believe in completely being independent and not necessarily, and they don't think that you have to think about anybody else in terms of society. Like, what is society? What is all those things?
What will people say? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So I think that's what is changed, and I think the fact that women are working today, right, is a huge change for us. But it's also a huge battle sometimes, right? Because we have to make people around us understand that, hey, we are also working, but we're also still doing all those things that we were doing before. So now men need to step up and other people need to step up to kind of balance that
ecosystem, not just the husbands and men, but just the ecosystem.
The entire ecosystem. Yes. Now if I come to the entire working, correct,
everywhere.
Now, if I come to the whole, and this is exactly what we do at Saha Fund StrongHer, right, is talk about, infrastructure changes, policies, and I think you know this best because you've been working with the big corporates on the HR and L&D, that everything has to change at the workplace as well, right? Like, so many women drop out of the workforce because they get married or they have a kid because they think that's the only option, because they might have to relocate because of a marriage, or of course take time off because of a pregnancy and a child. But the whole point is that it's the employer's responsibility also to have programs in place which allow women to take those certain, career gaps and giving them options to work from home, flexible work options, part-time options, which not thanks to, yeah, thanks to COVID, I guess. Now everybody's working from home, right?
Now everybody understands how challenging it is, and that you
Yeah,
can.
but it's doable, right? Everybody is working from home. Otherwise, you were looked down upon if you were I work from home. You will get paid less to work from home. All those things, right? But now, thanks to technology and acceptability and all those things, you can work from anywhere, and command the same salary and everything, and you should, right? And be on par with colleagues who were before working from the office or whatever, right? So I think technology.
It is the connotation of it, right? Like you're not like, oh, you're working from home, and sort of, what is unsaid is that your job is not that hard. I think just getting rid of that, I think everybody is now experienced working from home, so they won't think like that, at least now.
Correct. Yeah.
So tell me, when you think about your personal well-being, and if that means having that me time and having that space in your life to do stuff, when was it when you felt like you had the optimum well-being in that sense, in maybe the last few years or months or whichever time frame?
I have to be honest, it was probably before becoming a mom. So I mean, I'm someone who is honestly personally an introvert. So I'm one of those people who actually thrive on having my own time or space, right? And just getting time to think and just a few things for myself. Reflect and think for the day. Music, it really kind of helps me think differently, all those things. And I'll be very honest though, because of my work and how my how my work is structured, I have the opportunity to travel a lot. So I think those, even though I travel for work, those travel breaks give me an opportunity to kind of take time out for myself, and do something for myself, right? Where I feel like I've kind of come out of my normal maybe situation, and can I break through even for 2-3 days or a week, but do something for myself. So I think that's something which has helped me. But I think, and so I think becoming a mother was a huge learning and unlearning, they say, right? So there's so many things that even if you're physically not with your child, you are mentally with your child, right? So it's been hard in that sense, I'll be honest, to be able to create that time or that me time or that space for myself. But I think now again I am learning how to do that, because I've realized that you have to create boundaries, basically, both at the workplace and at home. And I guess somehow I've never allowed, and this is very personal, I guess, but I've never allowed anyone to judge me. But somehow I felt very judged when I became a mother. So I had to break that also. It's been like an effort and a task to break all those perceptions and barriers for myself. But I feel like now, after 3.5 years of being a mother, I've learned to do that. And with COVID and everything.
Yeah. I think a lot of women and moms that I speak to face this. There is a learning curve of being a mother, especially when it comes to the well-being. Because suddenly I remember feeling that, oh, you mean I can't take off whenever I want now? Or I can't take off to like a crossword bookstore and have my coffee and read a book just because I want to. Exactly. So that takes a little bit of a shift. And then, of course, I've had my own journey. What were some of the things? Because, for people watching this, and and I'll talk about it a little later into some, why we need differentiated well-being techniques and interventions for women, because their needs are different. But just in terms of people watching this, what are some of the things you have seen working for you? So if it's creating boundaries, maybe you could just share a little bit more light on how you went about doing that, because that's something which will help others as well, because a lot of women face this.
Yeah. So there's different parts to this. One is, of course, I don't know if it's a woman trait or it's a personal trait. I think for me, I'm also like that. Plus, I think women have so many, people have so many expectations from women, right? But I've also been a person who's never known how to say no to people, right? Because if it's my personality, or maybe because I'm the eldest, like, and I always feel it's a lot to do with me being the eldest. I feel like I have a lot of responsibility of people. And somehow growing up also, I was very always academically inclined. So I felt like I had to be the best in my academics, the best at home. You know what I mean? So the best at everything. So it's always been that I'm always,
that's like the blueprint of success, you know.
yes, yes, somehow grew up like that.
Yes.
And then you feel like you have to always show up the best everywhere, right? And please people and say yes and all those things. But what I realized over time is that you cannot make everyone happy, and everyone is different, even you're different, so not everyone will always agree with you, and you will also not agree with someone. So it's okay to have different opinions, different perceptions of others, and of people, thinking of how they perceive you. So accept that. When you accept that, and when you move on and you are okay with saying no to someone, and someone saying no to you, is when you finally open up and you realize, okay, fine, I can say no. And then you can start making boundaries and not feeling bad about it. I think one of the biggest things that I fought with, or I had to deal with, is the fact that I used to feel bad saying no to people. And I still do. I'm still working on it, I'll be honest, right? But I've come pretty good far now in terms of not feeling bad. I don't let people judge me, or I don't let myself get judged by others, right? So I think it's so important to create boundaries. And I don't know if I'm repeating myself a lot, but it's the one big learning that I had, that it's so important. And there's nothing wrong in saying no. Like, you don't have to feel bad if someone calls you up and says, hey, do you want to meet for lunch and dinner, and you can't go, and you say, hey, no, I'm not, I'm just tired, I've had, you don't have to say, oh, I'm not tired, yes, I'll show up, and then feel tired and show up and not feel good about it. It's okay to not do something as well, right? Sometimes we feel like we have to always show up, we have to always do something, we have to justify our time. You don't have to. Okay. So I think that's very important. To not judge and not be judged, and by boundaries I mean just to take out time for yourself, to do things that you want to do, and not necessarily always go with the flow or with what other people expect of you. And the truth is, even if you do your best, it's not always the best for the other person as well, right? So you can never make other people happy. So I think the best thing is for yourself also to have limited expectations from others, and let the same vice versa happen for you. I mean, I think you yourself are your biggest kind of cheerleader and supporter, etc., and all those things. I think once you start learning that, you move more happily and have less expectations from around the world. So then you appreciate everything else more around you.
Yeah, as you said, you are yourself, our biggest cheerleader. And some of the conversations which I have about boundaries, I've also realized that you're also one of your biggest blocker. In the sense, a lot of people say that, oh, my husband doesn't give me, whatever, my husband doesn't respect my boundaries, or my in-laws don't respect my boundaries, or my friends don't respect my boundaries, or my kids don't respect my boundaries, let's say. And when I deep dive, I've realized that, first of all, you need to have boundaries. If other people are breaking your boundaries, it's normally one of these two things. Either you've not had the boundaries or communicated that, and in a lot of cases, they are also the boundary breakers. So if others are breaking your boundaries, there's a high chance that you are in some way breaking their boundaries, and you're sort of giving that giving that whole feel that, oh, you can call me anytime, because you're also kind of doing that to them. So I think this whole concept of boundary is very new for South Asians, generally.
Yeah, right? It's very new, and I believe it's mostly because we haven't created the boundaries.
We haven't created, I mean, we were 1.3 billion and there's less space. So where is the space for creating the boundary, physical or mental? But yeah, jokes apart. Yeah, that's true. That's a new term for a lot of people. Do you have any regrets you look back? I know hindsight is 2020, but do you feel like, oh, in that period of time, I wish I would have taken better care of myself mentally, physically, spiritually, or, in any area? And then what did you learn from that?
Yeah, of course. I actually have to talk about the time when I had my kid, uh, because I run my own fund, so I have my own business basically, right? I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I didn't have, even though I knew that you should, this is a whole concept of 6 months maternity leave, and I thought I was going to take that. I didn't allow myself to take it. I immediately, I think, I had my baby, and I think maybe in 7 6 7 days I was already on my laptop, and I was like, oh my god, this report has not gone out, or this hasn't, even though I had actually delegated everything to my team already. Like, they had everything was set in place, because we were in a position where I can easily take that maternity leave now when I think about it, right? But at that moment in time, I felt like I had to prove myself and do more, and show up and do this and do that, when actually, to be honest, I just needed time to heal, because it's a huge transformation becoming a mother. Like, when you go to the doctor as well, she talks every day about, oh, your 5th week, your 7th week, your 36th week, and all that stuff. Nobody talks about what happens once you have the baby. Nobody, right? Even your friends who had kids or your parents, everyone talks about, oh, have a good pregnancy.
Nobody talks about it.
Yeah. And then suddenly you're
I
like,
felt betrayed. I felt betrayed after going through. I was like, nobody talked about it. Not my closest friends who would have babies.
Exactly. I don't know if women forget what they've gone through or what it is, or they think that they don't want to scare another woman. I don't know. I think it's a lot of that.
They don't want to be negative, they think.
Yeah, I think it's that, right? But so, because I had, thankfully, a very peaceful pregnancy and delivery, but I had a lot of postpartum things, to do with postpartum depression, or even certain physical things that happened and all those things. And I was just like, oh my God, nobody told me this. How do I cope with this? You have hormones all over the place. You're healing yourself. You're taking care of a kid as well. And then, of course, and I think in India, we have this thing of where everyone loves to give advice. And maybe, they're probably doing it in the best intentions, but unfortunately for you, it becomes too much. And for someone like me, who has been literally working all my life, to suddenly be at home and sit at home the whole day and listen to family, everything was new for me, to be very honest. Yeah. So I think, and so now I just feel like I should have just not done any work if it was okay, because nothing happens. You know what, we think, oh my God, tomorrow this will happen and that will happen. Nothing happens. Everything moves on. Everything will be fine, right? But it's that point of time, I should have just taken time off and just been be at peace and just enjoyed my baby, or whatever, whatever. It's hard, but at least just be in that moment. But instead, I was trying to be everywhere else, and then I just feeling very very different and very out of it, right? So I think that's what I regret, the fact that I didn't take time off for myself when I had such a huge thing going on in my life, where I had a baby, right? But I still went back to work and thought I'm not giving good enough to my work and all those things. So I think that's what I was being hard on myself.
Thanks for sharing that, Ankita, because I think it's so important for people to understand that this whole romanticizing of not taking maternity leave and getting work is a disservice, because there is a reason why it's not a leave. First of all, you're actually healing, and you're skipping that entire process. And
you are totally right. Like, there's this whole thing where it sounds cool, like, oh, I didn't take maternity leave, oh, I work all the time. But actually now I realize it's not cool.
It's being very short-sighted. It's being extremely short-sighted.
There was this article. So there's, I don't know if you've heard of Jessie Draper, who she runs a woman fund in the US. And she's also like, she used to be in the movies before. She's Tim Draper's daughter, but so she has a lot of followers. But she wrote an article recently and I loved it. She's like, and I think it said that you made a whole baby, take the whole maternity leave, right? Like take the whole damn thing, right? Which is really true. So I think you should celebrate the fact that you take maternity leave. And it's really important because I think, like what we're discussing today, well-being and all these things, being happy actually has so many positive attributes to it, right? Which comes back into the workplace. Absolutely. A happy person is a happy worker as well.
Absolutely. So, you know, while we are on this, Ankita, and because you work with so many women founders, have you sensed, because I know some of my friends who are founders, I sense that hesitation in them just about focusing on their, you know, let's say maternity and things like that. So have you sensed anything around you? Do you think women founders are okay to have a baby while they found a company, or are working moms willing to take a punt and sort of start a company with having a child? Have you, you know, seen any trends?
Yeah. So I know there's this hesitation to, I guess when you're fundraising, to talk about the fact that you are pregnant or going to have a kid. So that, you know what, there's so many notions and biases, which I didn't realize until I had my kid. When I'm talking about this whole motherhood part of it, I knew about the whole diversity thing, which is why I founded Saha and StrongHer. But then it's funny, but I didn't realize the whole mom and pregnancy thing until I saw people around me go through it and I self went through it, right? So I've seen so many women founders not disclose that they're pregnant when they're fundraising. And suddenly, like, you get to know in 2 months that they've had a baby. But they could have talked about it. But I realize, I understand, but I guess someone else wouldn't, right? So I've seen that. I've seen such amazing women who've had such amazing ideas, and then suddenly they think, oh, I'm going to have a baby, so I'll have to stop this, and I'm not sure, and everything, right? So yes, it is still there, but it's up to us as women. And of course, we'll have those hesitations sometimes because it's hormonal as well, maybe. Yeah. But you can come back to work. And I think it's so important that the people that surround you, whether it be at the home or the workplace, your friends, your inner circle, all send those positive vibes or give you the right advice at the right time in your, in your lives, that push you to go back to your dreams and do whatever you want. So you need that, because if everyone tells you that you can't, then sometimes you start believing that you can't. So it's up to you to be very strong, to take decisions, to take whatever steps you want to take in your personal or professional life. But yes, it's true. A lot of founders don't disclose they're pregnant. They don't disclose. I think marriage is okay now. I know there was a time when people be asked, oh, are you going to get married and leave the job? I don't think those questions are being asked too much right now. Yes, maybe they still are. But I know people still want to know, oh, if you're becoming a mom, how will you handle a company and all those things, right? So all that has to change, and we have to take that step of changing it.
All right. So shifting gears a little bit, in your area of work, do you see this whole tech revolution helping well-being? So I know well-being is very personal. It's a lot about how you look at life, your family structure, and a lot of these things. So where do you see tech playing a role in that?
I think tech plays a huge role. So, for example, just to give you small examples, right? Today we have apps like Calm, Headspace, right? So you have certain applications and, online avenues to reach out to for your mental well-being, whether it to be access yoga classes or meditation or counseling or sessions, etc., right? Which was not there before. Before we thought we had to go to a physical person, and then there's a hesitation to go to someone as well in person, right? Sometimes, right? Sometimes when you can talk to someone online or not have to maybe use audio video, but it's an app talking to you, you're more open to kind of reaching out to those services, right?
Right.
Also, there's a very something which I read and it really opened my eyes, that we always think that the depression, anxiety is something which only city people face. That's not true. It is equally prevalent in rural parts of our country as well, right? In rural India, right? Given that we're a country that has such a huge inequality gap, economic inequality gap, more and more people in rural areas are getting depressed and getting anxious, right? So through technology, we can deliver services, and through the distribution of 5G in India and etc., and the fact that we're a country which has so many people, even the guy in the smallest village will have a smartphone. In different languages, we can get services, mental health services, well-being services, all out there, right? And I think that's the really amazing role that technology can play in a country like India, where till the last mile we can deliver things through technology, through your smartphone. And I think it's so important for people to build that, and people are building it, but build it and effectively distribute and implement it, because every person is facing some kind of inequality, distress, anxiety, or depression. And everybody needs access to something or the other which will help them find a way to spend their time or make their time worthwhile, or to create jobs or money, whatever it may be. And all that can be done now through technology.
Yeah.
So I think it has a huge role to play.
Really good point on democratizing well-being. Only the affluent needn't have access to mental health care. Everybody can have access to healthcare.
Yeah.
That's what I had just from an overall well-being perspective. And I'm going to ask you a few quick questions now, just about you. And I'm curious about what you're going to answer. So some of these are just for fun. Some of these are, which can inspire others. So when you have an overwhelming day or a meeting or a disappointing day, what do you do? How do you bounce back?
So for me, I love music. I think music can just transcend you to a very different place. So I love listening to music. I'll be honest. I think we're always, very very difficult situations or important situations or dealing with things. But I think even hanging out with my child at the end of the day is a huge stress buster, because I can become a child myself, right? And just be part of his innocent life right now. Like, I really wish I could go back to that, right? So just, I think, doing things that make you happy. I love food, by the way, and I love, if possible, cooking. Somehow cooking also stress buster for me.
Wow.
Yeah,
cooking is therapeutic for a lot of people.
For me, even though I'll be so tired, if I know I can just cook something that I like, and not necessarily for others, but for myself, because I don't know if someone else likes my cooking, but I'm okay. Just the whole process of being able to buy the ingredients and cook and, eat it. I think that's why I think
I envy you.
Sorry?
I envy you that cooking is therapeutic for you, because for me, it's a stress inducer. So that's
what it's a stress inducer if it's something that I'm doing because I have to actually put lunch, breakfast, dinner on the table for someone else. But if something that I'm doing because there's already food, but I'm just cooking something else and I'm not responsible for someone else's lunch, dinner, it's very therapeutic for me. It's funny. So it's something that I used to always do. So the when I was in London for those 4 or 5 years, that was the one time that I think I lived alone. And that's when I kind of discovered all those things about me. So I come back even late night at 10, I used to cook something, I used to feel good. So yeah, cooking, listening to music, basically doing whatever, something that makes you happy and makes you forget about your stressful day is what kind of helps me bounce back.
Okay. Is there any investment which you have made in your well-being? It could be time, money, energy. Of course, you are a VC, so you know all about investments. But yes, what is the investment you've made in your well-being which has given you the maximum returns?
I'll be really honest. I think there's so many different answers to that, but I think the most important thing is what I really love about I guess my job or what I do is, or just the way how our family has always been, I've gotten to travel so much. I think traveling and going to new places, meeting new people, and learning new cultures is the biggest investment you can make in your life for yourself. It really opens up your mind to the endless possibilities of what is out there. Sometimes you're so stuck up in your daily 9 to 5 routine and your daily life, and you think that's everything, but there is so much happening out there in the world. There's so many people doing such amazing things. If you can just be inspired, if you can just add value to someone else, um, and they can add value to you, I think that is a great investment of your time and money traveling. I really believe in that. And what I loved about the fact, during this whole COVID, like how I'm meeting you online, I've met such amazing people online and found great support and friendship and build a community, of amazing female founders, ecosystem enablers, investors. And, so it's been really amazing to see that part where I've become friends with people through work,
Yeah.
And all online. I think that's been really amazing. So I think I've invested time in discovering people online community, but I think travel and just meeting new people is a great investment of your time.
And you feel like that's really given you the returns.
Yeah. For me, and I travel for work.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I get to travel and meet new people, experience new things, it really adds a lot of value to my thinking and what I bring to the table at work as well, and what I can also share in my personal life and my experiences and all that stuff to my child and family and all that.
Awesome. Was there a turning point in your career which helped you? Was there a specific thing which sort of crystallized where you are now?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I've been in this whole world of private equity, venture capital, etc. I always enjoyed what I was doing. But, when I realized that I really want to, for me, the kind of person that I am, I get the most happiness out of helping someone else in terms of adding value to their life. If I can help them improve in their life in terms of their job or education or some kind of advice which will help them, that makes me really happy. And I guess when I realized that, hey, I want to work with startups, but most importantly, I want to work with women entrepreneurs because I feel I can make a difference. I think that was the turning point in my life, and it's what I'm doing now, which I'm really happy to have discovered. And there are certain people in my life who I think helped me think through that, and I really appreciate and thank them for that. But I think that was a turning point in my life where I realized.
What was the best advice you got? Do you remember? Do you remember what kind of?
I've got so much advice in life, right? I think the one thing that has, which I have experienced and understand now, and I think you said it before, that you are your own cheerleader. You're your biggest spokesperson. So if you want to do something, believe in yourself, push yourself, talk about it, and do it. So I think nobody's going to come and hand hold you and say, oh, come here, I'll take you here, or I'll make you CEO of this or do this. I'll push you. No, you push yourself. Surround yourself by the right people to leverage that and take you, but you have to take it over. You have to reach that moon yourself. You are your biggest cheerleader, supporter, pusher, everything.
Super. On that note, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot for the last question. Money, power, or fame? Choose one, and why?
I would choose fame, because if I'm famous and if I can inspire a million billion people, I mean, that's what because, I think, and if you're famous, of course, you can do good work and you'll get power and money and all those things. But I think if I had fame, at least I can share everything that I want with so many more people. I mean, for me, if I can inspire many more people, spark curiosity, as I said, help so many different lives, impact so many different people, that makes me really happy. So I would choose fame over everything else.
Nice. Got it. Thank you so much, Ankita, for being with us. And
thank you.
I had fun. I hope you had fun too, or at least it was interesting to chat, but it was really good. I really enjoyed.
No, for me as well. This is a very important topic for me in my life. So I'm happy to have shared my, few cents of wisdom. And hopefully, yeah, I've inspired someone, or at least maybe someone relates to what I've said.
Absolutely, absolutely.